Welcome to a very special edition of the Experience Edge podcast. Today, I'm bringing together 6 of our most impactful guests in one narrative, showing how leaders are evolving customer experience from mindset to systems to measurable business impact. You'll hear outtakes from my guests touching on a range of issues across the spectrum, all adding up to a guide on what it takes to transform customer experience in 2025 and beyond. So let's start where it all begins, with leadership mindset.
I am as human as everyone else. And I think quite often managers or leaders can have kind of a command and control outlook or style. And that ultimately dehumanizes everyone. And quite often dehumanizes peers as well, not just the folks that are on their team. And so it's really important to me to be able to say, like, wow, I messed that up. Or, hey, I have some thoughts, challenge me, poke holes in this, and go from there so that we can partner together, because I'm only as good as the people that I'm working with. So some of the pitfalls I think folks see when they're like, hey, I want to be a human with my team, being inappropriate as far as looking for the team to support them, or saying, sharing too much about the struggles that we are facing leader, but also lose confidence in the business, which has a pretty negative impact on engagement. It creates these silos, and it does lend itself to an experience of us versus them. And in a well-functioning team that's part of a larger team, and we go all the way up, we have to. It's not us against them. We have to be all one, driving towards the same goals, making that company successful using our expertise.
Always try to express this to especially experienced design practitioners. You got to speak and understand the language of the business, like being able to articulate that value prop and connecting the experience design to the top line growth or the bottom line for a company is imperative to trying to create buy-in to the work that we do. You have to be able to speak that language. I think it's like a lot of things in life. You do a lot of preparation in the background, and a lot of it comes to luck, but you're ready for that moment. I've been very fortunate to be in positions where I am kind of in the ethers of the C-suite in different ways and different times of my life, and taking a leap. I'm not hesitating when you're in those moments. You've had all this prep functionally as experienced designers, as innovators. When you're in those moments where you just take a leap and say, hey, I want to talk to you about XYZ, and you've got your elevator pitch and you tell them about the value props of whatever, you're trying to bring into the company that's novel, that you want to create change. A lot of the foundational stuff that I do is around transformation. So it's really asking the question, being in their presence, being prepared to have that conversation, and asking permission. If you don't ask, a lot of times nothing will happen. And I've always been a big proponent of having that kind of mentality. Asking for that opportunity, showing them the value that something like this would bring, and then just kind of meeting them where they are and hitting the ground running.
What Jen and Ryan remind us is that customer experience transformation isn't just about dashboards and frameworks. It's about leading with humility and empathy. But even the best intentions hit a wall of organizations when they remain siloed. And that brings us to the next part.
People on the outside don't care about your departments and your business units. They just want to pay you and be on their way. And so that's really the hard part of this, is figuring out how to make the connections between all those different parts and have everybody's accountable for the end product, which is growth. So one of the things that we were missing, and this probably is we're moving into the step 4, which is that storytelling platform. We just didn't have that in place. We used to publish a newspaper here a long time ago. That's just publishing stories about medicine. And they were sending it out by email, but it was completely disconnected from the membership part of the process. It wasn't even connected to the website. Everybody's accountable for the end product, which is growth. And so did I get more customers? Did I retain more customers? Did I drive revenue in the appropriate fashion based on the strategy of the organization? People really they have to work together to do that in a way that is not maybe natural to organizational structures right now. The experience is largely going to be digital for people. We need to create that funnel that gets people engaged with us and then allows us to talk about the priorities, the proof, and the people that are involved here. We're going to do that through content marketing and digital storytelling. Physician burnout is a very important term in our world. It connects to a lot of our programs and our mission. And if you were to type that word into Google 7 years ago, we were like on page 10. It's like, the Arctic of the internet. I mean, you're never going to get found there. It's very cold on page 10. Today, we're number one. How do we do that? Well, that's not luck and it's not chance. It is a scientific approach of content generation and optimization and a real sense of focus that is a huge collaboration between my team and our mission teams that work on those topics.
You want to think about it holistically. I think what I see a lot of organizations do is they think almost siloed or incremental about the problem that they're trying to solve, not realizing that processes, problems, functions, they cross your silos, right? So when you're trying to solve a problem, don't look for an agency or someone to help you has one competency. You need a collection of multiple competencies to solve usually a problem. And making meaningful impact. So look for someone who has that muscle, that might, that can address your operations, who can address your technology, who can address the human-centered side, right? You need someone who has capabilities in many different spaces to really solve your organizational problems.
When systems align, the customer finally sees one experience. But alignment is only the start. Leaders also need to prove impact, and that means data, metrics, and experimentation need to all follow suit.
Something that I think is critically important and not everybody understands is you could pick the right problem and you could fix it the wrong way. And so one of the things that we are very much focused on is the end-to-end design process, or, the iterative experience design process, where at every step in the process, you are checking yourself to make sure, am I on the right path? So while an idea might generate from that feedback, right, that I've analyzed, or a competitive intelligence that I've got a gap versus, such and such across the street. So I know what I need to fix. And I head down a path, but I need to go back to the end users and say, does this solution that I'm designing, does it actually address your problem, right? Like, would you use it, would you be able to find it? Would it, whatever the question is, because you could solve the problem the wrong way. And by the time you launch the fix, you gain no value, right? People are still complaining on the topic. I didn't save any money. I didn't make any money. And you're scratching your head. It's not because it wasn't the right problem. It was the wrong execution. So it's hard. And, you just have to constantly be, like I said, checking your gut and experience. This is another thing I've clearly learned. It's not about what you like or what I like. It's about what resonates most with, the masses or the end users, right? And how do you find out what resonates with them? Well, you vet it. You do UX testing, you do A/B testing, you do testing and learning. It certainly doesn't guarantee that everything you launch is going to be perfect out of the gate, but it de-risks it. And you need to make sure even after you've launched something that you continue to listen, because people will give you the feedback about, tweak this, move that button, change the word on that page, and you'll constantly improve the yield.
Stone in the UK and Germany is like the largest employment career platform. Basically, people looking for jobs and people looking to hire. And we help their product organization scale out jobs to be done to 400 people. Right, across the organization. But so what is the ROI of that? I think to some degree it has to come from your industry and even from your company. So one of the things that I recommend when teams are getting started is learn some of the basics of jobs to be done, and not only the theory but how to practice it, and come up with a success story of your own. It doesn't have to be in the critical path of your business, right? It could be something small and on the side, but you need to have something to demonstrate to other business stakeholders in your company that there is success here, right? And I think that's the best thing to do, rather than looking at gigantic numbers. I don't know, IBM saved $1 gazillion with jobs to be done. Is like, yeah, but we're just this small company. Come up with a story that's going to be relevant to your company by trying jobs to be done on a project.
one of those things where over a year and a half, you continue to bring these different executives in, kind of phased over time. It didn't start from the beginning. I had to go into a road show and have conversations with these folks and say, hey, this is what we're trying to bring to life. We'd love to have your engagement. It took a year and a half to kind of slowly onboard across the different functions to create buy-in. So that's, a big part of the role that I was focused on, is trying to articulate the value prop of doing this type of work, visioning work, leveraging service design to operationalize that type of visceral vision of the future, vision mapping to help create like a visceral view of what that world could be, because it is quite complex. It's not complicated, but how do you go from where we are today to a hospitality company? There's a lot of moving parts. We have a vision map that on the top side is how do you phase over time, and then on the y-axis, it's actually a flipped service blueprint. So it's the customer journey going down instead of across. And we were able to think about and show in a very visceral way to leadership how you could imagine a hospitality experience of Amtrak in the future. And we created vision videos around it to help articulate that. So yeah, it was a long time in the making. It was co-creation in nature. And like you kind of honed in on, I mean, it had buy-in from, across 80% of the workforce at the company. So like, hey, I've been around for a couple months. I'm new here. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's an example. They say, okay, you've brought a problem to me. It sounds like it's something that we need to address. The first thing you need to have is what's an opportunity or a solution that you could come at this with and create a solve. So I usually try to pick some wicked, hairy thing that's glaring to me, but maybe not to someone else, and have an example and say, hey, here's how I want to go about solving this for the company. Having those examples in your back pocket also takes a lot of preparation. So really trying to empathize with and meet your company where they are. Trying to understand, those hidden insights where you can provide the most opportunity, and trying to connect the dots of where there's the biggest opportunity spaces, and trying to have a use case in my back pocket when I go talk to a C-suite executive.
Technology helps, but the true test is whether it builds trust.
Front line, not only is it a war metaphor, but it also creates this sense of these folks are not that important. We'll throw a ton of people, and if they get killed in battle, cool, we got more coming. And that's not an environment I want to work in. And I don't want to be that way as a human. I don't want to feel that way. So I actually stay away from that term. I think as of customer service reps or agents, as supportive partners. My goal when I'm working with a team and creating a support team and culture is I want every one of the people with whom we interact, customers, clients, suppliers, whomever, to feel like, wow, they had my back. So you can see the difference there. Someone who's shooting and fighting versus someone who's like, hey, I want to take care of this for you. I understand you're feeling some anxiety because what you believed we could do is not working out, right? So it's a very different mindset and point of view. And CS can be a really, really hard job because there is often that sense of battle. And it doesn't have to be. However, that is dependent on leadership and the culture we foster to help those folks feel like they have agency, like they are successful in helping the business succeed.
I think AI is an interesting topic because it's just evolving so fast. I think, how I would describe AI in a customer experience space is it's kind of like quantum physics almost. It's like quantum computing because it's able to take a lot of data points and translate it very, very quickly and making meaningful insight. So if you think about, a lot of organizations have big data, and organizations love their big data, but they have so much data they don't even know what to do with it, right? They can't parse all of it. They can't synthesize it. They can't turn it into anything. It's just so big. It's so massive. And so then you have, your what's called deep data, which is your insights, all the things from the human-centered design. And so you have to have, those are two sides of different coins. And you kind of have that. The great thing about what AI does is AI helps you synthesize those two together and bring those two houses together very, very effectively and very, very quickly. It no longer has to be data that you analyze and it's laggard data, right, that you look back on. And then you're like, okay, going forward, I'll fix that so the next person doesn't have that. It allows you the capabilities to synthesize stuff in real time and then react to it in real time. And so that changes the game. because you no longer have to wait to synthesize. You're synthesizing in the moment, and because the AI is helping you be directive in that approach, it helps you be more proactive, which is really what you want to be able to do. And then you can course correct very, very quickly, and that helps you as an organization. One of the big tenets that organizations were trying to do is this concept of self-serve. What AI helps you do is self-serve a lot better. So instead of you having to go to a portal or to a web page and find what you need to do and click on it and then read an article, you can talk to a bot, something where it can kind of understand what you're trying to achieve and the goal you're trying to achieve, and it can just give it to you straight. I think AI definitely has its place. I think still being able to understand the emotional side of your customer and the value of walking the mile in your customer's shoe and being able to contextualize that helps you bring into focus the magnitude of the problem you're trying to solve. And I think that AI is not going to be able to do that today or tomorrow. I think you're still going to need that human touch and somebody that gets it, right? That can relate to that problem, can relate to that challenge and say, the ethics of things. AI can't really do ethics. AI can do logic, but it can't really do ethics. And so you still need those ethical actors within your organization, within your customer experience program to be that advocate for your customer.
Owning the journey, which is the final theme. Lots has been said about owning the journey. Do we have journey owners, journey managers? Is it a cross-functional responsibility? Does everyone own the journey? Should the CEO own the journey? Let's talk about owning the journey.
How do we get everybody that owns kind of pieces and parts of this experience around the table to understand how we show up today and figure out how to show up better in the future? You definitely need to have a central coordinator, right? But there are so many different teams that play. And for a customer experience team or an experience team to be successful, it's a lot about trust and relationship building, right? Across a firm. My current world, you've got to work with the financial advisor teams. You have to work with the traditional product owners. You have to work with the channel owners, the back office operations folks, the fraud teams, right? The service teams, and knit it all together so that it does show up consistently to clients. The experience teams are the quarterbacks, because again, where we sit, we can see across the products, the channels.
From insight to action. Each of these leaders shows us that customer experience isn't a department. It's a lens. It's a way to see the world. One that sees across silos, respects the humans behind the data, and measures impact. Not just metrics, but in trust. Thanks for listening to this special edition of the Experience Edge. And be sure to subscribe and join us the next time as we continue to explore the future of customer experience in a world of AI. All right, and that's it. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this valuable today, don't forget to subscribe to the Experience Edge on your favorite podcast channel, leave a review, and share it with your team. I'd be delighted. Today's episode was brought to you by Daydo, the AI journey management solution for enterprise. To have an edge on your business strategy and to know why your customers do what they do, visit daydo.com and explore more resources to accelerate your customer experience game. And remember, the journey to creating customer-centric impact never ends, and here's always a new edge to discover in doing things differently. Next week, new episode. Until then, keep pushing the edge and stay inspired. See you in the next episode.